Tonight, our mission statement. Helping Parents Heal is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non-dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and allow for open dialogue. Attendance today at the Helping Parents Heal meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. However, these Zoom meetings are very healing to parents all over the world, and they are all posted on YouTube so that affiliate members who are not in our time zone can also watch. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. So welcome, Dolores, and thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you so much. Like I said before, I'm super excited you're here. We're going to be talking to Dolores about her new book, A Bird Called Wisdom. It is a poems regarding grief, transformation, and renewal. And I will just tell you, it is so beautiful and such an easy read. And I just felt every poem, and I'm sure you all will as well. So let me first read Dolores's bio and introduce her, and then I'll let her speak a little bit. Dolores Cruz is the mother of 4 children, including Eric, her youngest, who is in spirit. In May of 2017, Dolores and her family received that dreaded knock on the door where they were told that Eric had been involved in a single car accident and had passed away on impact. As we all know, this was the beginning of the hardest journey she and her family would ever have to take. Dolores describes those first months as being in a deep, dark hole with no light and wondered if it was ever possible to live again or feel joy again. Her journey is one of hope and healing. She immediately began doing anything she could to find some kind of meaning and healing, if that was even possible. After reading dozens and dozens of books about near-death experiences, afterlife, and spirituality, as well as listening to hundreds of presenters speak on these same subjects, Dolores found that not only did she begin to see light in her life again, but also joy. The joy in knowing Eric is still right here with her. She was led to write a book called Look Around, about her journey with the intention of honoring Eric and helping other parents who have found themselves on the same very difficult journey. She credits her amazing grief therapist as well as Helping Parents Heal for guiding her towards actually finding hope and healing in the aftermath of Eric's transition. She is a recently retired elementary school teacher and has been married to her husband, Joey, for 35 years. And you can find Dolores' book called Wisdom on Amazon. So anyway, Dolores, welcome. Welcome. Why don't you start by telling us just a little about yourself and, of course, about Eric?
Thank you so much, Carol and Lynn. I'm very happy to be here. Yes, as mentioned already in the bio, Eric is the youngest of my 4 children. He was, as so many of the children, all of our children, whenever I hear people speak about them, they say the same thing I'm about to say, which is that he was just the kindest, most compassionate, most amazing son, person around, that was just loved by so many people. And I know all of us can say that. And my favorite thing about Eric is that he was a drummer. I'm sure he's still drumming away, you know, in spirit. And he was in a band. I mean, he played drums actually since he was sixth grade. His uncle, my brother, who was his godfather, was a drummer. I come from a family of musicians. My mom was a violinist. My older brother was an amazing, he wrote a music and he was a musician as well. And anyway, so Eric would love to watch his uncle play the drums. And when he was about 9 or 10, he informed me that he wanted to play drums and he wanted to buy a drum kit. And I said, that's awesome. We really can't afford that. It's pretty expensive, but save your money. And he sure did. It took him about 2 years. He had enough money, birthdays and whatever, earning money at home, a little chores and stuff like that he would do. So my brother took him and purchased his first drum kit and helped him set it up. And Eric practiced every single day. I never minded it. It never bothered me. And thankfully, somehow our neighbors never complained. I don't know how that was possible, but he took lessons, played through high school, drumline, took 4 years of music, went to college, found his bandmates. And boy, that was just the greatest joy in my life, was to go watch those guys play. It was so much fun. Probably one of the things I miss the most with Eric. And so he was just the light of our lives. And he had this awesome girlfriend just that last year and a half, and was kind and compassionate and caring. And he was so excited that he had just gotten this new job. Finally, he was a communication major in college. And eventually, after, I think it was like a year and a half after graduation, he was able to get a job that was really paying some really good money. And he was very excited about it. And, one night after, it was just a second week on the job, he went out with his friends, new coworkers. They were going to just have some dinner and stuff. And well, as it turned out, he and my daughter Vanessa, who's just 16 months older than him, were still living at home, and our other two kids were living out not too far away, but they were not living at home. And for whatever, Eric was supposed to come home that night, did not. Next morning, found out he had been in this car accident. It was, as you all know, just a horrible, devastating, unbelievable beginning of a journey. And it has been quite a journey. That's all I can really say. And the part I'm just so grateful for is that he has been right here with me throughout this journey. And that's expressed through my books. So that's
you.
good.
Yes, thank you. And oh my goodness, those poems. It's just, I love it because it's an easy read in the sense that if you're new to the journey, you can feel it, but it doesn't, and you go through the process in these poems. I just thought it was beautiful, just beautiful. So the title, I love the title, A Bird Called Wisdom. Can you tell us what inspired the name?
Yes, it was a dream. So let me describe it to you. It was pretty amazing. I made the decision, what are we, January? Yeah. So just about a year ago, I had finally said, it's time. I had been thinking about a book of the poems that had been written over 6 years in my journals that just came out. These poems just came out from meditation, or just the need to sit and express myself. And it kind of came out like poetry. It was nice. It's how it flowed for me. Anyway, I made this decision, and so started going back to the journals and compiling into a Word document, the poems that I was choosing. And I was thinking, what's the title going to be? And thinking of some important words and coming up with possibilities. But I would say about, after a couple months of putting all this together, I had this dream. And in the dream, I was in this nondescript place. And this bird, it was a white dove, flew right in front of my face and just hovered there and looked at me. And I could feel that it was a young bird, and there was a sweet personality, sort of an innocence. And I was enjoying that, thinking, wow. I mean, I am, ever since this journey started, I'm very attached to birds. I don't know. I've got this thing about birds now, and I'm fascinated with them. So I had this bird here in the dream, and I thought, and this is fantastic. You know, I hope he doesn't go away. Well, while he was there, this other one comes over and hovers next to him. And I could tell this one was older and wiser. And I don't remember the words, but I know I was having a spiritual conversation with this bird. And it was lovely and it felt fantastic. And I didn't want it to end, but at some point, this bird said to me, "We're going to go now." So I said, "Okay." And as they were getting ready to go, I said, "Wait, what's your name?" And this bird said, "Wisdom." And I was amazed in the dream. And when I woke up, I remembered every bit of it. And I was so overwhelmed by that experience. And I said, I have the title for my book. So it was a bird called Wisdom.
I just love that. I just love it. When did that dream happen, right before you were thinking about a title, or was it, much earlier and then it?
Yeah, no, it was, I had been coming up, I had a little list of titles,
Okay.
but
So
none of them were like that.
yeah, I love, it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. And I know, of course, journaling helped you with the book and your poems, but would you say journaling in general? Because I know so many of us do, and I suggest that to parents when I'm speaking to them as a caring listener and they just don't know what to do with their emotions. So I'll say journal. How would you say journaling helped you through the process? Besides, of course, being able to write these beautiful books.
Well, it's just a place to put your feelings and emotions. It's almost like validating yourself, right? You're writing this down, and you can go back and look at it, and it it's like this is it. This is my journey. Here it is. I was encouraged strongly by my grief therapist right away. I contacted someone, I contacted someone else first, but within a few weeks, I found this woman who was fantastic. She was just a blessing. And I was with her for a year and a half, and she told me right away, get a journal and start writing, just write your feelings down. And when I would go in to see her once a week, I'd bring the journal, and I would sometimes go through what I wrote, and we talk about that. But it is an expression of your innermost self. It is your true self that's deep inside. And when you journal, that comes out. So I think it's so valuable. And it's an expression. We need to move the grief. And that is one way.
Absolutely.
It's one way to move it. I physically, of course, as well. We have to move it through our bodies, but that's another way to move it.
Yes, absolutely. Journaling, writing letters to our kids. I wrote letters all the time, all the time. And
Yeah.
it does help a lot. So on your poems and with your journals, that helped inspire the poems, obviously, but do you feel that, Eric you were channeling Eric many of the time?
Yes, I do. And I made it a point every time I sat down to work on the book, I would light a candle and say, "Here we are." It was symbolic, and I had the light there and said, "Okay, here we go, Eric. Help me out. Show me what you would like, said in this book." And I also would ask my mom, who was a writer as well, and any angels, whatever your belief system is. But I would ask, help me out. And I do feel strongly that things would come up, helping to remember things. Is there something I need to add here? So yeah, definitely.
Oh, good. That's beautiful. I loved when you said that grief and joy can coexist, because that is such a such a true statement. I think parents think that that's just impossible. Like if you're grieving, you're going to grieve forever. And I always tell people, I promise you can find joy. Of course, that doesn't mean now we've forgotten our children, but how would you explain that? How would you explain that in your journey? how grief and joy coexist in your life.
I did not believe that was possible for quite a few months. And I want to really qualify that. Like I'm sure most of us, I felt like I didn't know if I ever could possibly feel joy again, how. But I don't think I ever said I never would. I think I said I don't know how I will, because I left that door open to the possibility, even though it looked completely impossible. But I started that journey of, reading books and listening to other people do, talk podcast talks about spirituality, anything I could get my hands on. And as I developed a new understanding, or a greater or broader understanding, I saw that there was hope. And I had a better understanding of where Eric was. That was another thing that was important to me. And I began to take the time little by little, as I was, even outside in nature under this amazing tree I've got in my front yard that I felt was really part of my healing as well because of nature. I just began to appreciate that and find the joy in those things. I never was the person that would not allow myself to smile or laugh. I did. I just believed that that's something he would have wanted. And with my family, he has 3 siblings, my other kids and my husband, we did allow ourselves to absolutely talk about the ridiculous, funny things that he would do and laugh, and we would laugh at it. So I never kept myself from feeling that. I allowed that to be a possibility. And one day, little by little, and I can't even put my finger on when, maybe after a few months, I just started to feel like, oh, there's something that feels a little bit like joy. And I allowed it. I never said to myself, no, you're not going to. I allowed it in. And over time, I just was so thankful. I almost hate to say it because because I know that seems ridiculous in the beginning, but I became thankful and grateful for the beauty around. And that was actually something that Eric taught me as well. But, and I found joy in knowing he was with me. I did. No, he wasn't in the physical anymore. Yes, I would rather he would have been, but he was right here. He is right here. And that was joy. So no, the grief doesn't go away. I'm not going to one day go, hey, I'm done. I'm not grieving anymore. It's all, that's never going to happen. And that's okay. I don't mind. But rather than the grief being right here, like it is in the beginning, now it's just, it's right here in my heart. But then I've got joy too. So it's both.
Exactly. That was beautifully explained. I agree with you. And I was one who thought, oh no, I'll never be joyous. But I was, and I found that joy, and I never felt guilty to laugh or anything, because I know that everyone who knows me, and Tyler knew how much I loved him, and it has nothing to do with how I love him. And like you said, our kids want us to be happy. And so it's definitely there for us when we're ready for it.
Yeah.
But one of the poems you have titled "A New Relationship," and so I that's important because we do continue a relationship. So, do you want to touch on that?
My therapist, again, I had been with her a handful of sessions, maybe over a month or 6 weeks. And she was the first one that said, well, you will develop a new relationship with him. And I thought that was kind of crazy. I didn't understand it. But again, I was like, oh, all right. I was open to that, whatever that was. And over time, I really did understand what she was talking about. And the relationship is, first of all, just the trust, the knowing that he's here. And I talk to him every day. And that is a big part of the relationship. A day will not go by. Not that yes, I think about him constantly, but I also talk to him. If obviously, if we're in the car listening to music and he's a musician and I listen to the drums and I go, hey, it wasn't, I make comments about what we're listening to, and I can just see you playing, those drums, or, or something that we're going to be doing with the family. And, hey, Erica, I know you'll be there. So, hopefully, we'll have a sign or something. And so it's just knowing. And the interesting thing I realized as I wrote down, and I did write down all the signs, all the dreams, and that's a lot of what's in the book. I realized with these signs and connections and dreams and knowing he was there, I realized I have new memories with him. The memories didn't stop when he left his physical body. I have new ones. I can go, hey, Eric, remember when you left that sign, or I saw you, or the bird, and it's like, so there, it's still going on. It continues.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've not heard anyone say that, but that is so true. You do have new memories, and the relationship does continue. And I, like you, I talk to Tyler all day, all the time about if I lose something, or just that relationship definitely is very present. So,
Yeah.
so you talked about the fall, and we all know how that feels. I think and especially reading your poems. And again, I like that it's just you can feel it, but it's easy to move through it. But then there's the shift. And what tools helped you? I mean, I know you said you read, but did you meditate? What things helped you to make that shift?
Yeah, definitely the books. And I read like crazy. I had one book after another. I'd read a couple in a week if possible. I always had it here. And if I had something to do and then I had 3 minutes, I'd look at the book. I needed to understand as much as it was possible. So those books brought me to started to bring in the light. So they were shedding light, and listening to podcasts and listening to teachers that, I call them teachers, spiritual teachers, or people talk. And that really helped me to understand. That shifted me. Yeah. And the meditation, I did start meditating. It wasn't for about a year, I would say, after Eric's passing, that I started meditating. But wow, that opportunity to sit quietly and hear him and hear guides, or however you want to call. I like to say angels. I do say the word God. I know not everybody likes that word, but there's many ways to say, source, divine love, and really bask in that. And so I realized that I have that choice to let that happen. I felt a strength in that it really kind of was up to me, and that I was allowing myself to shift through the meditations and all the learning, and of course, helping parents heal. My gosh, I mean, brought in such a shift as well. So there were just many ways that I realized it. I didn't notice the second it happened, but after a while, I'm like, things are different now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay.
Yes. Thank you for that. Yes. Just learning, and just knowing and trusting, like you said, makes all the difference and just processing the grief, and a little bit of time in there as well, except for the shock and everything to wear out. But I always tell parents, if you want to find that happiness, you will. It takes work and it takes learning. And I mean, I was proactive. I read everything. I went to meetings. I looked at YouTube videos on near death, and I did so many things. So, well, thank you for sharing that. And signs. I mean, we all love signs. Is there a couple you'd love to share with us, that without giving away some of your book, but even just some that really were profound to you that you were
Yeah.
just like, okay, there is no questioning this.
Yes, there were quite a few. And that's another thing, by the way, regarding shift. When I would receive signs, yes, there's the validation. He's here. And that was a big difference. But I will admit, before I knew anything about signs, ever read about it, before I knew anything about mediums or uh, just knowing that there's more, knowing more about what's out there, the more is that it was about 10 days after Eric's accident. I had to go to the store. I went to a local grocery store. Outside, let me preface this, by the way, that as I'm sure we've all done, that 10 days, I just cried and asked him where he was and begged him for a hug and all of that. But I didn't ask for a sign because I didn't know yet. But there I was at the store. I go in, there's a couple of people, young people, a girl and a guy, outside the store with a table taking donations for a cause that I was very familiar with as a school teacher. I'm retired now, but at the time, they're called the DARE program. It's a drug and alcohol resistance education. And they had not been to our school in a long time. I see their tables, I think, and I thought, oh, I'm going to go make a donation. Go inside, come back out. Go to the guy, because the girl was busy, and I went up to him. And of course, he's like Eric's height and Eric's build and Eric's age and Eric's coloring. I mean, could have been Eric. And I said, hey, we haven't seen you guys at school. And he's like, yeah, funds were cut, blah, blah, blah. And so I wrote him a check and he wrote a receipt. And as he handed it to me, he said, how about a hug? And I said, sure, I'll always take a hug. And I hugged him and it was like I was hugging Eric. And it was like, that never happens. When has anyone ever said, outside the store at a table, hey, how about a hug? I don't know. I've never gotten that. I've never gotten it since. Never before and never since. But it was only right after I had been begging Eric for a hug. And
Wow.
that was my first realization that there was something. And I walked away going, oh my God, Eric, was that you? And I'm sure, of course, I mean, I'm sure it was, and that was what was so beautiful about that is, again, I wasn't looking for it. I didn't even know such a thing existed. I knew there probably could be some connections, but who knew? But it was amazing. And so that was the very first. I mean, there are so many between, as we all already know, nature and numbers is a big one with Eric as well. And that was mentioned a little bit in the book. But I did have about, I think I'm going to go with 3 months later. We were going to a birthday party for my now son-in-law's niece. She was 5 at the time. So we were all going, like the family. And as we went in, it was held at a condo complex, but in the central community area that was like outdoors. So as we're entering, I just felt like, Eric would have been here. And it was just that heaviness. And then I said, of course he's here. He's here. So we were standing around at one point with plates of food and kind of standing in a circle, talking and chatting. All of a sudden, right here in my peripheral vision, just clear, was Eric. And he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt, like a blue baseball cap and his little facial scrub. And I just, of course, as I looked, he dissolved. But he was just standing there looking in the center, smiling like he was part of the group, hanging out like he would have if he was there. So I knew he was saying, I'm here. And I told my family about it later. I didn't even mention it until afterwards. And I told them and they loved it. They're all for it. And, they believe. And so that was just another. And I would love to mention some of the number signs real quick because he's good at numbers. My husband every June would work in New York on business. And so I would always join him at the end of his trip so we could hang out for a few days and see a Broadway show and all that. And so this was a year later, and I, met Joey at the hotel downstairs in the lobby, took me up to the room. And as he's sliding the key across to open the door, I went, oh my God. The room number was 2311, and Eric's birthday is the 23rd of November. And I'm like, and when my husband hadn't even noticed it until I said it. And the second he looked, he went, oh my God. And I'm like, okay, he's been hanging out here with you, I mean, just of all the numbers that, he could have had a room number for. And we had another room number with an important number sequence as well at my son's wedding. It was like, wow. Anyway, so, I mean, those are just a few. I've got more if you want, but I could go on forever. But
Oh, that's amazing. I lost you for a second, my internet, so hopefully I don't have a problem, but
oh, okay.
But anyway, well, thank you so much for that. And you talked about, and I'm assuming it was the same thing at the wedding you were at. You just really felt his presence because you talked about how you knew undeniably that Eric was at that wedding that your daughter was in.
There were two weddings. So yes, the one that my daughter was in, what happened there, it was the first, I think it was a year later, and it was the first wedding I attended, how that is. It's like,
yeah.
I'm not going to see my son in a wedding. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be fine. Eric's here, and all that. And of course I lost it when the mother of the groom was walking him down. Right. So I was very quiet about it, but I just had tears and tears. And at that moment, in my third eye vision, very clear, was Eric. And he was in a black suit, in a dark blue shirt, and he was looking at me. And I continued to cry, but that went on for like 20 minutes. He was just there. And it was so beautiful. It was so awesome. And I was still in so much pain, and it was just at the same time. But the other thing then would then at my older son's wedding, and again, the number 311 was a very important number between Eric and I. I established that with Eric early on. It happens to be to get I don't know if it's TMI, but it happens to be the date that he was conceived was on March 11th. So it's always, hey, Eric, 311. That's when you first entered the world. And of course, then the date that he exited the world. And my son, what was the number on his room number, but it was 311. So that was amazing. Along with the fact that in the groom's room where they were getting dressed and everything, up on a shelf was a wooden big block of the letter E. It was just this one block with the letter E up there for Eric. There was just those kinds of things. And you could just feel that he was there. He wouldn't miss it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you talked about Eric, and I mean, how sweet, and everyone loved him. Like, I agree with you. So many of these kids are like that, which is why they're evolved and they don't need to be here anymore. But would you say, because you talk about Eric and obviously he lived life to the fullest, do you believe that his soul knew that he wasn't here for a long time? I kind of look back on things that happened with Tyler, and I always say, things slipped, and I'm like, you know what? I think I know his soul knew. Did you get that with Eric? Do you feel like there was anything said that he?
I did not get anything. I've heard other people say that maybe their child said, oh, I'm not going to live that long or something like that. And I never got that, but I will tell you something I got that, again, he didn't know on a human level, but his soul was telling me. That last morning when he walked out the door to go to work, and I was getting ready to go to school. And, we always do the same ritual, we go to the door, goodbye, have a nice day, give a kiss. And, he'd go down there were like 2 steps down And he'd go down the driveway to his car. That morning, he said goodbye, went down the stairs, took another couple steps and stopped and looked back at me and said goodbye, smiled. And I said, bye. And I thought, why did he look at me again? I just, I noticed, I mean, it wasn't like I didn't, like, it was nothing. I just thought, oh, wonder why he did that. And didn't think about it. And the next day, when I got that horrible knock on the door and they told me, I have to say, the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, he looked at me again. And I think his soul was telling me. So that was all I really ever got from him. But yeah, he just, and I, again, I'm sure many of our kids have done this, but I just felt like he was out to have a good time, but he was responsible. He was a good kid. It wasn't like he was being, I never felt like he was being, I can't say I never. I mean, sometimes I thought, come on, be careful, but I didn't feel he was being careless in general. He did all the music. He had a great time with his friends, music festival after music festival. He didn't have a whole lot of money to spend, but boy, if he was going to spend money, that's where he was going to spend it. It was so important to be a part of that. Then he did the study abroad, and that was great. He was in Madrid, and I got to visit him there, which was one of the best memories of my whole, with Eric. But and then he told me he wanted to stay on an extra month and backpack around Europe. And I'm like, oh my God, it's going to cost too much money. I don't know, if you can, we can loan you the money, whatever. So it's just, I was like, why does he have to do that? Why does he have to spend an extra month there in Europe? And why does he have to go to all these music festivals? And I don't know. Well, he had to do all that, have all that experience. He had to be with his friends. He had a lot of friends, and just do all these things. And and I wish he could have done what he had planned to do with his girlfriend a month later, which was to go skydiving. And that never happened, but they had the plan. The plan was in place to go do that. So, yeah.
Well, he's probably skydived now, so.
Well, she said she felt him with her. So I'm sure he went.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then there was the awakening part of your, I love how you have your chapters, and then the awakening, which I know you've talked so much about, what kind of brought you to that with the shift. Is there something, I always say, I think our kids are at least our greatest teachers. We learn that they leave us these gifts after they move to heaven. They leave us with, at least most parents will say, I have zero fear of dying, and I was so afraid, and the knowledge. I mean, I really didn't have a belief, so I learned, and they kind of cracked us open. What would you say that your son has taught you?
Yes, I agree with you about the no more fear of death. Right. It's not that I can't wait. At first I would have said, take me now. But I feel like his message in fact, I know, because I've gotten on 3 separate occasions, very close in a short amount of time, the message, enjoy your life. I'm around. I'm still around.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be around. And so I believe, if anything, he has taught me to enjoy, because he enjoyed, and he wanted me and us, his family, to enjoy. He made that clear to me in a meditation and through another intuitive person, 2 other intuitive people that got the exact same message. So yes, and the title of my first book is Look Around, and that came from him and his friend. They would hang out at the one friend's garage, and the guys would go and they have music, and they'd probably have beer, and and all of that. And his very good friend named Brian, who had come to the house that first weekend, pulled my husband and I aside and said that after they would be done and go out to walk to their cars, and it was night, it was quiet, it was still, that he and Eric would say, and they'd say, look around, look around. at all the amazing beauty and the awe and the wonder. And when he told us that, it just felt like, yeah, that's Eric. And that's Eric telling us now to look around here now. So yeah, even though I wanted to go, I now realize I'm here for a reason. And part of that is to honor him, of course, and to live my life to the fullest like he did. So I want to do that for him. And he's taught me, of course, compassion and how to be kind and how to make every person, hopefully I can do this, not as well as him, but make every person feel important. Because
Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Yes. Well, thank you so much. Would you read us? And would you read us maybe one of the poems that you love, or maybe one that's just really spoke to you? I'm sure they all do, but maybe one that's closer to the early stage, and then another one that's showing the shift or your awakening. And then if anyone has any questions, they could put them in the chat.
Sure. I definitely have one ready for after, but and in the beginning, oh well, okay. So in the beginning, I think a lot of people can relate to this. It's called Not Strong. People say I am strong. No, I'm not. They haven't seen me in my car wailing at the top of my lungs as I drive home from work. They haven't seen me hunched over as I sit on my son's bed, sobbing uncontrollably, so much so that it's hard to get a breath. They haven't seen my hands shake so much that it's almost impossible for me to write. They haven't noticed that I no longer wear makeup, for I would cry it all off within the hour. They only see me when I have pulled myself together and quietly gathered up the broken pieces. They only see me when I have found a way to speak in a calm tone, allowing one word to follow the other, maybe even finding a way to shape a smile onto my face. They see this and say that I am strong. No, I'm not.
So powerful, so powerful. Her whole book, the entire book is just, it's beautiful, Dolores.
Thanks.
Okay, so do you want to read us one for after where you
Yeah.
make
And I do really love this because I make a mention, and you'll hear it, of my mother and grandmother. They lost children as well. So
so you've lost a sibling?
I lost a sibling when I was 20 years old. My brother was 26.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Well,
That was my older brother, the amazing musician who was
oh,
sick. And,
okay.
Eric was,
Yeah, because I think of our kids that have lost their, our kids, my son, they've lost their siblings. So you're not only, I always feel for him. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you've been through both, but
oh yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So here we go with I Am Still Here. I did not ask for this. The human part of me never, ever in a million years wanted to experience a child of mine transition before I did. I have heard some say that our souls did choose this. Maybe so. There was a quiet resonance in my heart when I heard this, and over time, I came to believe it to be true, though not everyone does. Regardless, if this is what has happened, if this is what has been given to me, or what I have chosen, then let me take it and run with it. Let me take all of it and have it turn me into the very, very best self I can be. If somehow I am to live this life as a mother with one child on the other side, then rather than let it break me, let it build me and expand me. Let it take the broken parts of me and allow the light inside of me, my truest self, to shine through, bright and bold. Let it teach me all that I came here to learn. Let it teach me that there is more than this. Let it turn me into a warrior of love, of hope, of service, and of compassion. To honor my son, I will do this. to honor my mother and grandmother before me, whose children also passed before them. I will do this. I will do this with my son on my left, my angels on my right, my ancestors behind me, Mother Earth below me, and God above me. Show me, teach me, guide me. I prevail.
That's just so beautiful. Thank you so much, Dolores. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. Did you have any closing statements for the group? I really recommend those beautiful poems. But did you have any closing statements or?
Well, just that, I'm sorry for everyone's loss. It is unimaginable. And I hope you can find a way to find the joy again, find some peace. Obviously here with Helping Parents Heal, we have just so much amazing support. And this is a perfect way to do it. And listen in, if you, and you said this already, Carol, but if you have the intention to move to a place of peace or joy or to find healing, even though that's a lifelong journey, it's not going to stop one day. But if you have that intention, you will. You will. And believe that and trust that.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Again, the name is A Bird Called Wisdom. Such a beautiful name. You can find it on Amazon. Do you have a website or anything that you want to type in the chat? Or if you want to type it in the chat, and then if anybody, or you can also say it for the recording, let people know where else they can find it other than Amazon.
I mean, let's see. I can type in. So, yes. So my website is DoloresLookAround.com. And I have a blog also called DoloresLookAround.blogspot.com.
Oh.
So, DoloresLookAround.com. I'm on Instagram or Facebook, Dolores Cruz author. And I also wrote 2 articles that are for the Huffington Post. And if you go and Google they call it HuffPost Dolores Cruz, they'll come up, and they do mention my, Helping Parents Heal. Especially I think the one in particular definitely talks about Helping Parents Heal. So I'm trying to type this in. That's my website right there, but oops, the D came off.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I'm getting that put in there, and it's a lowercase. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dolores. I'm going to have everyone ask them to unmute so they can say thank you.
Thank you, Dolores. That was beautiful. Thanks for sharing Eric with us.
Thank you so much,
and your
Dolores.
talent.
Thank you, Lynn and Carol, and thank you everybody for being here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dolores.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks,
Thank you.
Lynn. Have a nice evening.
Thanks, Carol. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.